What will you discover at Luray Caverns? From the tippy tops of their ropes course, breathtaking views of the Shenandoah Valley. From deep down in the caverns, wonder and awe from all the formations built over billions of years. And in the spaces in between, you can walk through history, see the evolution of the automobile, and even meet the mayor of Toy Town Junction. Open 365 days a year. Discover the perfect holiday adventure the whole family will love at Luray Caverns. Plan your trip at luraycaverns.com.
Today on CityCast DC, the ribbon cutting for DC's Go-Go Museum is today. And it seemed a good time to go back to one of my favorite early CityCast episodes where Bridget and I debated the idea of enshrining go-go, or any genre, as DC's official music. Enjoy, and see you at the museum. Oh, and stick around after the show to hear CityCast CEO David Plotz on why you need to check out Virginia's beautiful Luray Caverns, which are just 90 minutes outside DC. Today is Monday, November 18th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. So wait, you were born here in Washington, D.C., but you are not a Washingtonian by upbringing. You grew up outside Richmond, right?
That is correct. But you are like a lifelong born here, raised here, still here.
Yeah, I mean, there were some gaps in that track record, but DC is home, always has been. But so what you said, when we first met, that one of the unique things about DC to you was go-go music, which I don't know if they were listening to that where you grew up, but tell me, when did you first encounter it?
So I hate to say this, and I wish it wasn't the case, but I really didn't get into go-go or really have go-go on my radar until I moved back to the DC area in around 2007, 2008. And probably like a lot of people who are either relocating to DC or finding themselves in the area, it was just walking around hearing go-go music played on street corners like Florida Avenue, just being blasted. And so I fell in love with it really when I moved from DC to San Francisco. And I remember I was trying to explain to people out there what go-go music is and where it comes from. And I was like, oh, it's like a high-energy, percussion-heavy music. And I remember my coworker was like, oh, you mean like reggae? And I was like, oh, no, not like reggae. I was having the hardest time explaining it. And I really didn't fall in love with it as this genre that was really an expression of DC uniquely until I left DC because I was so homesick for it.
Right. And now it's like the official, the classic example of the homegrown genre in DC that never really struck it big anywhere else.
I don't know about that. Bustin' Loose is a national hit.
Right. I just think if you can name the two hits, then it's probably safe to say it's a local taste.
Okay, fair.
No, I mean, look, I grew up in DC in the 80s. And, it was a different time. It was before the internet, because I'm old, and before Spotify and stuff. So you wound up just osmotically absorbing stuff that everyone else was into. And like you said, walking around town or just listening to what other people were hearing on the radio or whatever, it just seeps in. And I was a white kid from Northwest who was into punk and metal and stuff. I wasn't seeking it out, but it became the sort of soundtrack of the city. You'd hear drummers around, and, in those days, go-go acts would come up and play up in the upper Northwest. And, it was just a thing. Nowadays, we talk about it like it's this sort of special magical thing. And it was so ubiquitous as to not feel that way then.
Yeah. I mean, the last time that you and I got together, you raised a really interesting point that at first I didn't agree with, but I'm coming around.
Yes.
That you're not so keen on the fact that go-go has been named the official music of DC.
Right. So in 2020, the DC Council, in their wisdom and in their anxiety that I think most Washingtonians feel about this really rapid demographic change that has happened and the fear that sort of this chocolate city is being eclipsed, decided hey, let's name go-go the official music of DC. And it was who can object to that? Because it is, a homegrown music. And the old punk rocker in me was no, we cannot, the idea that grownups, legislative officials, were going to be naming anything the official music seemed wrong to me. And, I remember in the 80s and 90s, the establishment, black, white, whatever, were all very alarmed at go-go music. It was dangerous. It was dirty. It was, associated with bad things. And now it's been taken into the bosom of the establishment, which is great because it's lucky for them, but lucky for the establishment, that is. But like, I hope that there are young people in a basement somewhere who are doing something that would scare and confuse me in terms of music, and that music is not official.
Yeah, so I've completely come around to your point of view. When we first had this conversation, I was like, how do you, oppose this? What else would the official music of DC be other than go-go? But now I think that you're absolutely right. And then thinking about like, oh, well, when did go-go have a meaningful presence in my own life? It really has to have been summer of 2020 when all the different racial justice uprisings were happening all over the world. But in DC, I remember a lot of those uprisings were go-go turn-ups and like outdoor, like Mochella, like that kind of thing. And you really saw go-go as linked to protest and resilience. And so I think that really speaks to your point that is that something that you want getting the official stamp of approval from the government in DC? Probably not, because that sort of goes against the resiliency of it.
And I think we can stipulate that like it's better to have a local government that is in favor of a cool local art form than one that is actively against it. It's just that term, official music, it feels like taking something real and vibrant and putting it behind glass in a museum, which again, it's good to celebrate something, but in the process of putting something behind glass, you sap it of its vibrancy.
I think that's true. I've compared it to other cities. Like back when I was sort of more in favor of it, I really love that in New Orleans, they have a lot of intentionality around the way that Black art is really preserved there. It's because like people come to New Orleans to experience jazz, to experience Black creative expression. And so that you would want that to be reflected in the way the city governs and the way policy is made. And so when DC named Go-Go the official music, I was like, oh, it's like New Orleans, like a nod to the fact that Black creativity is like such a big part of DC. But I can see how it's also this like meaningless gesture that is rooted in racial and economic anxieties that really doesn't serve anybody, but makes it seem as though it's so progressive, they're doing such the right thing and all of that.
Right. And the difference in New Orleans is like tourists go to New Orleans to hear jazz. They go to New Orleans in part because it was this cauldron of creative culture, creative African-American culture mostly. And DC, I love you, baby, but I don't think a lot of out-of-towners are coming here to check out go-go. I wish they were, but that's not like our brand. Do you know what I mean?
It pains me, but I think you're right. Like, I was just thinking the last 2 times I've been to go-go events, it's local. Like, it's not you're right. It isn't the kind of thing people come from out of town necessarily to experience. I wish it was, but it's not.
They named the G League team, the Wizards G League team owned by Ted Leonsis, the Capital City Go-Go, which is, again, I think that's cool, but it is a bit of a like, this thing has been around long enough that it's being co-opted for commercial purposes, for branding purposes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it beats the alternative, but it is like a different moment. And to some extent, culture gets defanged when that happens.
And I think to add on to that, go-go historically had fangs. Police targeting go-go clubs and go-go musicians and saying that they invited crime and the seedy element. Like, you can't talk about the legacy of go-go music in DC without talking about some of those parts that are less flattering to the establishment. And then so to see the establishment acting as if it's always embraced it as this beautiful thing, it is a little discordant.
Right. And in the establishment's defense, some of the things that are maybe not that positively reflecting on go-go, there was a lot of songs about women's butts. And they were not necessarily told from like an inclusive, body positive point of view.
It wasn't like, oh, that butt is so empowered.
Right.
That butt's going to college.
And I do think, there was like a sort of a class of church lady wagging her finger at go-go, which, look, I think I'm a First Amendment absolutist, so songs should be about whatever they want. But I don't necessarily know that would be the proudest thing to defend.
Fair. The finger-wagging church ladies might have a point on that one. Have you ever tried a squid ink margarita? What about a cotton candy old-fashioned? DC's bartenders are constantly raising the bar with wacky and delicious new cocktails. And what better way to try out their creations than during this year's Cocktail Week? This year's celebration is running Friday, November 29th through Thursday, December 5th. the 91st anniversary of Repeal Day. Whether you like a classic martini or a mixologist's strangest specials, DC Cocktail Week has something for everyone, with over 100 participating locations in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Warm your belly this fall with special happy hours and tasting events from some of DC's best restaurants. Visit dccocktailweek.com for details. That's dccocktailweek.com. Cheers.
Let's be real, lawsuits are not fun, but with Paulson & Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson & Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. Partner Chris Nace is a local who cares deeply about the DC community, even serving on the board of the local branch of the Living Classrooms Foundation in his free time. Nace and his associates Samantha Peters and Maya Perry handle medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson & Nace has even been recognized as one of U.S. News' best law firms. So if you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson & Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com. That's PAULSONANDNACE.com. Or call 202-463-1999.
But your thing about politics is totally right, too, in that it was a big feature in 2020. And I think there's sort of two reasons for that. One is just as a form of music, it is really given to outdoor gathering and performance sort of impromptu. It's not like you have to like tune up and hit all the marks exactly perfectly. It has a kind of come on along quality to it, which is inherently good for like the democracy of the streets. And also, I think at this point, part of its identity is as a like kind of walking, talking, dancing middle finger aimed at the sort of buttoned up, cleaned up, gentrified new DC.
1,000%. When I was doing a lot of protesting in 2020, there would be this like flatbed truck with the musicians on the back of it, and they would just pull up into crowds. It like felt like a dance party. And I would see people who were not affiliated with the protests walking by who would just be like, oh, what is this? I'm going to join. So by the end of it, it was like a massive street party. But to your point around the middle finger to the sort of like buttoned up, gentrified DC, was there ever a better example of that than that spat between somebody at that condo development, the Shea, who wanted them to turn off the go-go music on Florida Avenue, and it became such a big thing. And it's like, I usually try to resist reading into stuff like that because it's so easy, but this one was just so perfect. Like, can you have a more perfect encapsulation of exactly what you were just describing, that button-up, gentrified, white, newcomer element of DC really turning up its nose at something that has been part of DC for such a long time?
Well, let me ask you a counterfactual. What if that store had been playing like Motley Crue or like AC/DC or some kind of like...
Oh, shut it down.
Right. I don't mean to parse things too much, but there was a sort of elitist class disdain there that would probably have applied to like lowbrow white people forms of music too. But it did have like more power and pain on the far end, on the other side of the punch, because it was go-go and because it was a black crowd who was feeling like their stuff was getting shut down.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But I also think that like it plays into something where I think Black and brown folks and low-income folks in DC have spent a lot of time feeling and being told in a million different ways that they are not a priority. And so I think it really wasn't about the music. I think it was just one more way to be told that you're not a priority. Your experience is not a priority. And so I agree with you. I don't think it was necessarily about the music. I think it was about simmering frustration that I think some folks feel in the city.
And I think that like that frustration in DC, it's just like a half inch beneath the surface, and it can come out all kinds of ways.
Oof. I love how you put that. Oh, I was going to ask, do you have a favorite go-go song?
I always like Drop the Bomb and Work the Walls. But, you know, I mean, it's a kind of music also where it's more about just the constancy than any particular track.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've gone to go-go events where I could not tell you like the name of a single song played. And like, it kind of feels like it just was like one long groove, if you know what I mean.
Right.
If I was asked my favorite go-go track, it would probably be Rare Essence's cover of Ashley Simpson. And the reason why I love that song is that most people are probably familiar with Ashley Simpson, you know, that song. And that I like the original as well.
She's not the official music, just to be clear.
But that's the thing about go-go. There's so many good covers of songs that you would not expect to be covered by a go-go band necessarily, and they can turn a flop into a bop. And it's just like, I think that example, and again, no shame to Ashley Simpson, because I love that song, the original, but the go-go version is like, they heard something in that song that I don't think Ashley Simpson heard in that song.
The other thing I think it's hard to talk about go-go music without talking about sort of the period of the 20th and early 21st centuries that DC was Chocolate City and the sort of solidarity and so on that came with that. But it is like a period in time, like any other. And there was a period when Washington was like an epicenter of bluegrass music because people from Appalachia, this was the closest big city. And there was a time when Washington was a epicenter of Dixieland jazz, similarly.
I didn't know that.
And and like it is a good thing that we are not stuck continuing to listen to and have obligatory celebrations of that. Not because there's anything wrong with those genres, but because it is weird and probably not a sign of creative health to press pause on anything in the culture.
That's such a good point. And that I want to be in a city that is always evolving, dynamic. And that's kind of beautiful. And we shouldn't necessarily, try to put something under glass and preserve it the same way forever. Let things change. So you were talking about how go-go isn't really this national thing that people really recognize or respect outside of DC necessarily. And I remember a few years ago, Wale, the rapper, who's also from DC, put out a mixtape that was like very well regarded. It was on the Pitchfork list and all of that. It was Mixtape About Nothing. And it's like based on the sitcom Seinfeld. And a lot of the beats are go-go inspired, go-go infused. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is going to put go-go on the map. Go-go is about to be huge. That didn't actually end up happening. But I do feel like there are some big artists that if they ever wanted to do like a go-go mixtape or do a song that is go-go inspired, could possibly be the next Bustin' Loose, right? And so I would love to see like a Lizzo like crossover. I think that would really do it. There's also this really good New Orleans bounce version of the Sade song Kiss of Life, which was like a really smooth R&B song, but the New Orleans bounce version is very high energy. I could see somebody doing a really good like Sade or some other kind of R&B song, but to a go-go beat and really giving it like a new energy. I could see any of those things really putting go-go on the map nationally again.
Or someone could just make School Days Part 2.
Oh, yes.
Because the EU song got big because Spike Lee put it in his movie.
Are you referring to Da Butt?
I am referring to Da Butt, yes.
They could do a remake, but then it's like really talking about how Da Butt is empowered, Da Butt deserves equal pay, like, a more like, progressive version.
Yeah, historically not a woke genre, but I think if you were to turn it around, that would be awesome.
Thanks so much, Mike. This was amazing.
It was really fun, and I will see you sometime soon.
Can't wait to listen to Go-Go with you at some point in the future.
You got it.
And don't go anywhere. In just a minute, we're chatting about all the fun things you can do at Luray Caverns.
I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast. I've lived in Washington, D.C. my entire life, and one of the great joys of the DMV is a trip to Luray Caverns, a huge, mind-blowing, gorgeous cave system just 90 minutes from the city in the Shenandoah Mountains. The caverns are always 54 degrees, so in miserable summer, it's a blessed relief, and in miserable winter, it is also a blessed relief, and in spring and fall, it's surrounded by just about the most beautiful scenery you can imagine. The foliage is stunning. I went to Luray Caverns as a kid. I took my own kids there. I visited just last year with a group of friends. It is a special place. If you want to get out of the DMV, Luray is the place to go. I am joined by Bill Huffman, Luray Caverns Director of Marketing PR, to talk about one of our region's true wonders. Bill, welcome to CityCast DC.
Thanks for having me, David.
Bill, Luray Caverns is one of the world's most incredible cave systems. What are a few of the highlights or a few places you love?
Well, I really love Dream Lake. It's the largest body of water in the caverns, and it is an optical illusion. It creates the illusion that the pool is really, really deep, but it's actually very shallow, only about 18 to 20 inches deep. It's a mirror of the ceiling, so it looks about 6 to 8 feet deep, so you can just get lost in that reflection.
It is very cool. I concur.
It's just amazing, yeah. And when you see a little water droplet hit, it kind of breaks the illusion. You're like, wow, that's cool. And I also really like the throne room. It is a dramatic room. It's home to our fallen stalactite, which fell about 7,000 years ago. I can promise you nothing's going to fall if you come and visit us. It is full of stalactites, and it's almost countless in that room. There's just so many beautiful formations. It's really stunning.
True fact. True. It is amazing. What about the organ? That to me is one of the miracles of Luray.
It really is. The Great Stalagpipe Organ is the largest musical instrument in the world. Its home is in the Cathedral Room in Luray Caverns. It uses stalactites as the musical notes. So when you push a key on the keyboard, a little electronic impulse is sent to this little mallet that taps the stalactite and produces musical tones. It's all transferred back to that room. The stalactites cover 3.5 acres. So you're actually standing in the world's largest musical instrument.
That's amazing. And I think we actually have a clip of the organ. Let's take a listen to it. One of the things that I like about Luray is that it's kind of for everyone in the sense that cave is an anxious word for some people, but Luray Caverns are very comfortable.
They are very comfortable. We have such large rooms. You don't really feel claustrophobic. It's well lit. All the walkways are paved. We have a new ADA accessible entrance that we put in 2019. And so that allows people in wheelchairs, electric scooters to come in. I do recommend having a strong person or two to push a wheelchair through. There are still some inclines and wet areas in the caverns. And the caverns itself isn't exactly ADA compliant, but the walkway to get in and out is perfect grade for that.
And this is just for my girlfriend. There are no bats.
There are no bats. It's a closed cave system, so no bats inhabit the caverns.
And Luray Caverns is not just caverns. What else do you get for your admission to Luray?
Sure. Our admission is a great value. Not only do you get the cavern self-guided tour, but we also have a car and carriage caravan museum on site, which hosts about 140 different items related to transportation and 75 restored vehicles. They're just gorgeous. They go up from carriages to about the 1940s.
What's your favorite of the vehicles?
Well, my favorite has to be the 1930 Cord. It is a beautiful car. The lines are just absolutely amazing. It has a unique color too. It's kind of seafoam green and then has this aqua trim to it. So it makes a statement.
That sounds very South Beach.
It really is. And also included in the ticket is our Shenandoah Heritage Village, which is a recreation of a small 19th century farming community and kind of gives a history of the Shenandoah Valley.
So when I have gone out to Luray, from DC, I've done day trips, but I've also spent weekends and long weekends and even longer out there. The region is just a very rich place to go, isn't it?
It really is. We have the Shenandoah National Park. We're about 9 miles from the central entrance to the park and the Skyline Drive. It's just a beautiful place to come relax. And we also have the Shenandoah River. You can canoe or kayak down the river or float down the river. It's all just right here and amazing.
And there are cute towns all around as well. So it's a very pleasant place to go in all respects.
Absolutely. Luray downtown is just a quaint, cute little place. So you come and have some great food, do a little shopping. It's wonderful down there.
Bill, where can listeners go to learn more about Luray Caverns and to get tickets?
Absolutely. You can go to our website, luraycaverns.com, and purchase tickets online, or you can purchase tickets anytime at our main ticket counter. We never sell out.
And you guys are open 365 days. So I went actually on Christmas Eve one year.
Absolutely. We're open every day of the year, and we welcome visitors all the time.
Bill Huffman of Luray Caverns, thanks for joining us on CityCast. Check out Luray Caverns at luraycaverns.com.
And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.
Love about it, how it shaped the city, and the way the shitty
Well.
Y'all didn't hear that.